All right, we have officially made it to our last chapter in the Ancient Greeks unit. We are finishing up today with chapter 31, History Alive, the Ancient World. We are not going to be doing a reading of the Alexander the Great chapter because we also have a mini Q that goes with that chapter. So if you're thinking, I feel like she skipped a chapter, I did on purpose. So chapter 31, The Legacy of Ancient Greece, section 1, Introduction. One day long ago, a Greek thinker named Archimedes climbed into a bath, filled to the top. As the water overflowed onto the floor, he realized something. The volume of his body could be measured by the amount of water that left the tub. Eureka, he shouted. By being curious and observing events closely, Archimedes had discovered an interesting fact about the natural world. Before that, they didn't really get how that worked, so it was kind of a big deal. Curiosity and careful observation are important parts of science. This way of thinking is just one of the gifts we have received from the ancient Greeks. The Greeks left us valuable ideas in many other fields as well. And it's not just ideas that have come from the Greeks. So do many of the words we use to describe those ideas. The world of the ancient Greeks may seem far away, but it is as close as the thoughts we think and the words we speak. Let's look at Greek contributions to our lives in the areas of language, government, medicine, mathematics, and science, architecture, entertainment, and sports. Don't worry, all the sections are pretty short. All right, our first contribution or thing that we have gotten from the ancient Greeks that still is alive today, section 31.2, Greek contributions to modern language and literature. Did you know that the word alphabet comes from the first two letters of the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta? This is just one of the many connections between modern English and ancient Greek. Our alphabet grew out of the one the Greeks used. In addition, many English words have Greek roots. For example, the word telephone is made up of the Greek words for far off, tel, and voice, phone. Put those together, telephone, far off voice, I see. Even the way we write sentences comes from the Greek language. English, grammar, punctuation, and paragraphing are all based on Greek writing. And don't forget literature. The Greeks invented drama, including both tragedy and comedy. They even developed historical writing. Modern historians are following in the footsteps of Greek writers like Herodotus. Herodotus is known as the father of history. Our next contribution from the ancient Greek world is going to come in modern government. This is chapter 31, section 3. As you learned in an earlier chapter, our form of government was a Greek idea. Democracy, or rule by the people, began in Athens. The practice of having citizens serve on juries also began in Greece. There are important differences between modern democracy and ancient democracy. In Athens, all citizens debated and voted on every single issue. Today, we elect representatives to speak for us and to make laws. Another difference is that only native-born men could be citizens in Athens. So what that means is if you're not born in Athens, you're not native-born, you're never going to be a citizen. Ouch. Today, women are citizens too, and people from other countries can become U.S. citizens. Still, the basic principles of democracy come from the ancient Greeks. Athenians were proud that their government allowed citizens to control their own destiny. This idea is the basis of democracy even today. Chapter 31, Section 4, Greek contributions to modern medicine. For centuries, the Greeks believed that the gods and goddesses controlled natural events, including health and sickness. We pretty much saw that in all ancient civilizations, not just the Greeks. The earliest Greeks thought that illness and accidents were punishments sent by the gods. Still sounds familiar. They didn't know about natural causes of disease and healing. A Greek man named Hippocrates changed the way people thought about health and medicine. Hippocrates brought a scientific way of thinking to his work as a doctor. Hippocrates believed that diseases had natural causes. He taught his students to carefully observe their patients and write down what they saw. So it was all about observation, trying to figure out what was wrong. Hippocrates is often called the father of modern medicine. Today, people who become doctors take a Hippocratic oath. They promise to be honest, to preserve life, and to keep information about their patients private. Next, chapter 31, section 5, Greek contributions to the modern understanding of the body. As you know, the Greeks loved sports. Their interest in athletics gave them some knowledge about the way people's bodies move, but their understanding of the body was limited. That was partly because they couldn't look inside to see how the body works. The early Greeks believed that cutting people open would offend the gods. As these beliefs changed over time, the Greeks made new discoveries. Several centuries after Hippocrates, medical students were able to name and describe organs inside the body. They discovered that the heart was a pump that sent blood flowing throughout the body, and they learned that the brain was the center of the nervous system. Next, our contribution is to modern mathematics, chapter 31, section 6. The Greeks loved reasoning. They looked for logical answers to natural mysteries. Greek scientists often found those answers in mathematics. One such scientist, Pythagoras, believed that numbers were the key to understanding nature. He started a school where students developed mathematical theories. Like many Greeks, Pythagoras was especially fascinated by geometry. Geometry comes from a Greek word that means to measure land. Geometry began as a system for measuring areas of land. The Egyptians could also measure shapes and spaces, but the Greeks created new and improved methods. Using geometry, they could figure out how much seed to buy for planting a field or how to lay out a city. Another famous Greek mathematician was Euclid. His geometry textbook became the basis for teaching of geometry for more than 2,000 years. Greek culture produced the first woman to earn fame as a mathematician. Hypatia, born in Egypt in about 370 Common Era, she taught Greek philosophy and mathematics in the city of Alexandria. Next, chapter 31, section 7, Greek contributions to modern astronomy. Astronomy comes from the Greek word for star. The Greeks were pioneers in this field as well. People in all civilizations observed the sun, moon, and stars, but a Greek scientist named Aristarchus was the first person to suggest that the earth moves around the sun. This idea upset many Greeks who believed the earth was the center of the universe. Another Greek, Hipparchus, is often called the greatest astronomer of the ancient world. He studied and named more than 850 stars. He also figured out how to estimate the distances from Earth to the sun and the moon. His theories allowed later scientists to accurately predict eclipses of the moon. Next, we have the contributions to modern geography, chapter 31, section 8. The work of the Greek astronomers also contributed to geography, the study of Earth's surfaces. Geography comes from the Greek words meaning writing about the earth. As astronomers recorded the positions of the stars, map makers began to locate places on Earth relative to the stars. To describe where places were, they developed a system of longitude and latitude. Longitude and latitude. A great geographer of ancient times was the Greek scientist Ptolemy. He wrote a book called Geography that listed over 8,000 places. His book also contained maps that showed how to represent the curved earth on a flat surface. Next, we have section 9 in chapter 31, the Greek contributions to the modern understanding of plants and animals. The Greeks' curiosity led them to study plants and animals. By studying the anatomy or the body structure of animals, the Greeks also learned about the human body. This knowledge helped doctors in their medical studies. The Greeks identified many types of plants and named their parts. They learned how plants reproduce by spreading seeds. They also discovered that some plants are useful as medicines. Greek doctors used many plants, especially herbs, to reduce pain and to help people heal. The philosopher Aristotle was fascinated by living things. He collected information about many types of animals and plants. Then he organized animals into groups, such as those with backbones and those without backbones. He also divided plants into groups such as herbs, shrubs, and trees. The way we classify or group animals and plants today reflects Aristotle's work. Chapter 31, Section 10, Greek Contributions to Modern Architecture. The word architecture comes from a Greek word that means master builder. You read about Greek architecture in the chapter about ancient Athens. You learned how the Greeks used columns to make their temples balanced and stately. You saw examples of pediments, the triangular shapes where roof lines come together, and you studied the decorated bands called friezes. Greek styles are still used in many buildings today. They are especially common in public structures like government buildings, schools, churches, libraries, and even museums. But you can also see Greek styles in homes and stores. For example, many houses have covered porches. These porches come from the Greek word stoa, or a covered line of columns. Chapter 31, Section 11, the Greek Contributions to Modern Theater. When you toured Athens, you learned about Greek theater. The word theater comes from a Greek word that means a viewing place. Greek theaters were built as semicircles. The rows of seats rose steeply from the stage so that everyone in the audience could see and hear. These ideas influenced the way theaters are built today. The Greeks even invented special effects. For example, they used hoists to lift actors off the stage and made it seem as if they were flying. They also created scenery that revolved or turned. Revolving scenery let them quickly change where the action in the play was taking place. But perhaps the greatest contributions to the theater are their stories and their plays. Writers throughout the ages have been inspired by Greek myths and stories, and Greek dramas are still performed today all over the world. And last but not least, our final contribution, modern sports. Chapter 31, Section 12. Many modern sports have their roots in ancient Greece. The most famous example is the Olympic Games. The first Olympics were held in 776 BCE to honor the Greek god Zeus. Today's Olympics reflect ancient Greek customs. During the opening ceremony, an athlete lights the Olympic flame. This custom comes from the time when the first Olympic athletes lit a fire on the altar of Zeus. Many modern Olympic events grew out of Greek contests. For example, the pentathlon. The pentathlon is a Greek word that means 5 contests. The Greek pentathlon included the foot race, discus throw, long jump, javelin throw, and wrestling. The Greeks invented this event as a test of all-around athletic skill. Although the 5 contests are different today, the pentathlon is still an Olympic event. All right, well, that is the end of our read alouds for the Ancient Greeks unit. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that they made learning about Greece at home just like a little bit better. And we are going to move into our last mini project for the unit, which is going to be creating larger than life postage stamps. So not quite this big, about that big. And these can also be done digitally, of course, just as all the other projects. So you're going to get to pick your favorite contributions. If you love math, if you love astronomy, or if you love athletics, whatever it may be, you're going to get to pick and choose which postage stamps you create and highlight the contributions from ancient Greece. Again, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more directions on that mini project. Thanks, everyone.